Hey guys, it's Jolly Sailor time. So when we did Listen to the Mockingbird, we talked about 16th notes just a little bit. 1 T teta, 2 T teta, 3 T teta, 4 T teta. Okay? So in Jolly Sailor, you see a couple different variations of 16th notes throughout the song. So before we jump into anything, I just want to go over these rhythms before we get too far into the song. So, the first rhythm you see is this one right here. Okay? It's in the very first measure, the third measure, and the fifth measure. Okay? So, what you can see here is 1, teta, 2, teta. Okay? So this is an eighth note. It's going to take up a full half beat. Okay? Here's your eighth note pulse. And what you're going to get is 1, teta, 2, teta, 3. 1, teta, 2, teta, 3, or in a quarter note pattern, 1, teta, 2, teta, 3, 1, teta, 2, teta, 1, 1, teta, 2, teta, 1. Okay? So, what you're going to get is B, 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 E, G, B. That's the first two measures. And then the third measure has this rhythm again. A, 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 A. A, D, F, A. And the fifth measure has this rhythm again. B, 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 C, D, E, D, B, A, F, E, E. Okay? So, let's just focus on the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 measures, and then we'll look at this little rhythm down here that you see in the ninth measure. Okay? So, let's jump into this. And we have B, 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 B. Okay? B, 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 E, G, B. A, 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 D, F, A. B, 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 C, D, E, D, B, A, F, E, E. Now, I highly recommend plucking this first. Okay? The right hand is a little tiny bit tricky with this rhythm, so get the notes first, get the notes in your left hand, so this you don't have to worry about, and then add your right hand. So, if you need to pause this video right now and work these first 8 measures, I highly recommend it. So, if you need to work on it, go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so, clearly, all of the eighth notes are marked as staccato. But Mr. Verge, there's no eighth notes marked staccato in measures 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or wherever. But you see underneath the third measure, it says something called simile. Okay? When it says simile, it means you play it at the same as it was before. So in the first two measures, you have dot, 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 dot. So you're going to keep playing that same rhythm with the exact same articulation. So we need to work on the right hand a little bit. Let's go ahead. And you're going to use a lot of bow on this first note. Even though it is staccato, you're going to use a lot of bow. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 dum. Let's just go ahead and practice that for a little bit. First finger be on your A string, and we're going to go. And that's it. Now, let's put the first two measures together. Go on into the third measure. Fifth measure. That is a fourth finger E there at the end of the first line, okay? So make sure that you're playing that fourth finger E nice and high. Stretch that up from the third finger, and let's put that entire first section together, okay? Now, you'll see in the second measure of the second line, you have two quarter note E's, and you have these underneath them. Those are called accents, which means you're going to have a burst of speed and weight in the right hand. So instead of playing really boring like that, you're going to give it a burst of speed. Just like that. Okay, now, that's the first half. So, let's bring back our favorite whiteboard. And let me back this up and lower this down a little bit so you can see this rhythm. This rhythm right here, forget about this rhythm. We've already talked about this. Okay? So, this rhythm right here, 1, 2, say 1. 1, 2, say 1. Okay? So, you have a quarter note which takes up the full beat, right? Right here. Quarter note takes up the full beat. Then you have a dotted eighth note right here that takes up it takes up 3/4 of a beat. So if you're hearing 16th notes, you can see it's written out here. You can see you're going to have 2 te ta covered under this right here. Okay? So 1, 2 ta tum. 1, 2 te 1. Okay? This is going to take up 3 16th notes, and this is going to take up 1 16th note because that's all it is. You can see the 2 flags here. Okay? 1, 2, te 1. 1, 2, te 1. Hear how that gets 3 impulses? 1, 2, te 1. Okay? Now, I highly suggest plucking this one first as well. Let me raise my stand back up because I'm not using a whiteboard anymore. 1, 2, ta 1. 1, 2, te 1. And that's including the first note of the next measure. 1, 2, te 1. Okay? Let's go ahead and pluck this entire second half. If you notice, the notes are exactly the same as the first half. B, 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 E, G, B. That measure right there looks like the second measure. The first measure of the third line, A, D, F, A, looks like measure 4. And then you have B, C, D, E, D, B, A, F, E, E, which looks exactly like the end of the first section. Okay? So as long as you get that B, 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 you're golden. Okay? So let's try and pluck this entire second section. Ready? B, 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 E, G, B, A, 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 D, F, A, B, 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 C, D, E, D, B, A, F, E, E, with an accent on those again. Okay? All right, excuse me. So, here's the tricky part about this second section. It's not the left hand or the rhythm, it's the bowing. If you notice, that dotted eighth that you see that's connected to that 16th note, they're hooked, which means they're going to be slurred together or played on the same bow stroke, okay? So, I'm going to turn my camera away so you can see this, but it's going to be down, up, up, down. Down, up, up, down. That up, up is what trips a lot of people up. Up, up, down. Up, up, down. Up, up, down. So, if you need to pause the video and work on that bowing a little bit, pause the video now and take a minute to work on it. Down, up, up, down. So, let's try and play this entire second half. Down, up, up, down. Okay, now, that was really, really under tempo. So, let's try it a little bit faster. Now, you'll notice that it has a repeat sign at the very end. Keep that in mind. I'm not going to play the repeat sign today to save us time, but just keep in mind that there is a repeat sign there. Okay, now, let's start at the very, very beginning. I'm going to play all the way through it a couple times, and try and pluck or play along with me this time. Ready, and... Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, guys. That's just about all I have for Jolly Sailor. Have fun and happy practicing, guys. Bye.